problem with pain? Is it the pain that you're experiencing? Probably so. It's probably fair to say that the number one problem with pain is what hurts. But would you also agree that right behind that, perhaps the most significant, the single most significant challenge with navigating pain is the fight? The fight of the pain itself, the fight of the emotional storm, the fight of the uncertainty, the fight for the loss of, over the loss of comfort, the fight of the ideas, the questions, the doubt, the needs. What if there was an alternative to that fight? What if we took a look at the fight, the questions, the pining, the frustrations, the additional layers of pain that that causes, and had an alternative, not a perfect one, but one that you could go to time and time again? The idea of that fight has been very meaningful to me. It's been more than 50 years since the injury to my left knee. It's 50 years this past November. The first 3 surgeries after the injury, I did a tremendous amount of fighting. I fought with anger. I fought with screaming thoughts in my mind for help. I fought the frustrations. And in effect, it was layer upon layer of, for everything that I might be fighting, it was another layer of pain on top of the way that my knee was on fire or feeling like it was in a vice. And every step was excruciating for about a few years through those first 3 surgeries. And then about 15 years later, the knee went south again. 3 more surgeries and a lot more fighting, and yet more lessons learned about the fight, about how to look for alternatives, look for ways of, all right, I'm not winning these fights. So what am I going to do? And I'd say it's been since the 7th surgery on the knee in 2019 that it became clear. It became crystal clear. And I'll share with you what I've learned, and I'll share with you what I practice, even still with the daily pain. Hello, and welcome. My name's Rick. I'm Rick Cram, and this is Plan to Be Your Best Live. And I thought that today would be a good day, especially given the week that I've had. Tuesday and Wednesday were especially painful, and I did some fighting. And so, talking about this, I'm going to ask you to join me on a walk, if you will, through taking a look at what we're fighting and put into practice some new ideas, some new thoughts, some new feelings, and new action steps that can replace that fight for flow. You might even fight the idea of thinking, all right, I don't want to stop fighting. I deserve to fight this. I deserve to fight God. I deserve to fight whatever the pain is. I deserve to fight. I don't want to let go of that fight because in some ways that fight is one thing I have control over. When I have so little control over so much. And yet, there's something else. There's an alternative. And we'll go through that together. And I'm going to ask you to, as I even need to do in this moment, because I'm feeling the weight of this week, the weight of the pain, what I experience if we're connecting for the first time since the 7th surgery on my left knee, what I experience are random blasts of mostly instant agony. It's only maybe several times a month am I in constant pain, and that might last for anything from 10 minutes to an hour or two. But it's the random blasts of pain. Over time, there are literally over 20 different pain sensations that I experience. The belief is that on top of all the work done on the knee and the 7 surgeries, the seventh one being a partial redo of the total knee replacement from 20 years before, is that one of the two main nerves going into the knee was damaged. So I'm dealing with all of the work that's been done on the knee plus likely nerve damage, and they have yet to find a solution. The next thing I'm going to try, hopefully based on the call that I just had today, hoping that in the month of March, no later than April, I'll try a spinal cord stimulator and see if that can help reduce the amount of pain from those blasts as the pain signals travel through my nervous system from the knee to my brain. So this week, which has been a heavy week, and again, I'm inviting you to join me as we peel back the layers on trading that fight for let's do this. Let's trade the fight for posing some questions to ourselves. Questions that don't need to be answered right now. What I'll do is actually share with you, and we'll use the 3 steps of resilience. This is one of the foundational parts of the Plan to Be Your Best framework. It's about finding alternatives that will work within your unique kind of resilience, in your own unique resilience toolkit that trades the fight for flow. So many of us have been taught to talk about, I'm going to fight this, I'm going to fight that. And I hear all the time from my friends and family, keep up the good fight. And the idea, and some of the people will say, and perhaps you've seen some of the guests that I've had on the Plan to Be Your Best Life podcast, which is this every Friday at 12 noon, sometimes at a different time, but people talk about being a fighter, talk about being a warrior. Sometimes if you listen carefully, they too are not fighting the fights that can't be won, the questions, the doubts, the needs. And again, I'll say as we proceed with this, and I'm going to ask you to join me in what will be a paced, relaxed, I'm working on relaxing myself because this trauma experience that I'm living every day, sometimes when I start talking about it, I'm starting to sort of immerse myself in it, and I can get worked up. But what I really want to do, and I'm going to ask you to join me, is to take a deep breath. And let's calm, set the fight aside. What if you took that fight and in your mind, think of it being put up on a shelf. It's on the shelf. You know it's there. You'll be able to take it down and continue with it or care for it at some future time. But for now, let's set the fighting aside and entertain some questions. And using the 3 steps of resilience. By the way, down below you'll see a link to being able to download for free and instantly have at your fingertips the worksheet for the 3 steps of resilience. If you're watching the recording of this, go ahead and hit the pause button. Get the worksheet, and you'll see it's a fillable PDF that you can reuse over and over again to help in a number of ways, but perhaps most of all, help undo what pain does so well. It hijacks our focus. It saps our energy and frustrates our hope. Just as you've heard me say that the level of pain needs to be matched by the level of intentionality. Each step provides an intentional step where you're winning back your focus and discovering new ways of sparking new energy and fuel for your hope to trade that fight for flow. I hope you'll get the the PDF. It's waiting for you, and it's free. The link again is below. So if we tune in, if you hear my neighbor's car, and this is the third or fourth time in the past half hour, that'll stop in a minute. Allow me to pause while the horn is going over and over again, because I'd like for us to connect in what will be, what I hope you'll experience as an encouraging and positive time, whether it's a few minutes together or maybe you'll stay for the whole conversation, because we're going to take a look at what fighting actually does, why we need to fight, what happens when we fight, what does it take, imperfectly as it will be, what does it take to trade, what does it take to trade the fight for flow. Let me first ask you, let's tune in. What do you need? What is the pain? Not just the primary source of pain for me. For example, it's numerous pain sensations in my left knee. But I need much more than that. What more do you need? I need hope. Sometimes I need to quell the screaming that's going on in my mind. Oh. But I'm not going to scream now. That felt like a hammer hitting the top of my knee. And using the 3 steps of resilience, it had that moment. But this is my moment. And my focus is on you. That happens a couple dozen times a day. And what happened on Tuesday is that I went out for a couple of meetings, and immediately it became about close to a dozen an hour, and stayed that way through Wednesday. And I started fighting. I was fighting with frustration. I started feeling depressed. And so I used the 3 steps of resilience like this. I said, what do I need? And I realized I need to step back. I needed to be objective. It's been more than 6 years since the surgery and living with this every day. And I needed to, there goes the car again. I don't know if you hear the alarm. I'll just keep going. I needed to get in touch with my confidence again and exercise that confidence, the confidence in my resilience, confidence in knowing that I'll be able to reemerge from the pit as I do. I generally experience going into the pit a couple times a week, sometimes a few times a week, and sometimes it's for a matter of not even half an hour. Sometimes it's for hours, or even for more than a day. I'm usually able to be objective, like I was, and ended up taking that step, thinking, what do I need? I'm in the pit. My spirits are low. I'm feeling exhausted. I needed to get back in touch with the confidence that I've got in my resilience. And I thought about it. And the more I thought about it, the more I experienced it. Even though I felt exhausted, I knew, and I know, that there are resilient strengths in me. There is a resilient faith in me that I not only am resilient, I am resilience. What if you wrote down not just I am resilient, but I am resilience? Claim it. It's in you. You can tap it. It is a strength. It may very well be something you're thinking about and wondering, I don't have the strength now. And you might even be fighting that idea, fighting for strength. When what truly is happening is that the strength is there, you're just exhausted, which makes perfect sense. And herein lies part of the challenge with the fight, is that the fight is exhausting. So it becomes exhaustion upon exhaustion. And it leads to more pain. And so as we tune in and think about what is it that we need, what is it that we're fighting, and we realize that the fight, which is an exercise in trying to control, which is a totally normal human reaction, we realize that that fight needs to be replaced by something. And what I'm going to walk us through as we go from the tune-in step to the plan step is look at ways to trade the fight for flow. Tune in, plan, be your best. Those are the 3 steps of resilience. When we tune in and realize that we understand what we need, and we even understand what we're fighting, now we're automatically being intentional. That act of intentionality is your first towards being able to flex that resilience muscle and move into the plan step. Let's take a look at the options that we've got. The options fall under 3 buckets, if you will. The options live in 3 buckets: a new thought, a new emotion, a new action. And I'd like to share with you, I heard just the other day from a friend who described what she is seeing and what she's experiencing. And she reflected that basically resilience, it doesn't begin with answers. It begins with choosing to do something. Resilience doesn't begin with answers. It begins with choosing to do something. And that's what the plan and be your best steps in the 3 steps of resilience are all about. And when we take a look at what we might choose, we've got 3 options. We can choose a new thought. We can choose a new emotion. And we can choose 1 or more actions. As you think about what you're fighting, your pain, the exhaustion that you're experiencing from that fight, what might be a new thought? What might be a new emotion? Or what action might you take? Let me encourage you to create a list. You don't need to choose. You don't even need to really answer these questions just now, but just sit with them. Sitting with a question means 2 things. You're exercising not only what you can control, but you've just taken another step of intentionality, something with purpose. You're being deliberate. You have now won back the focus that pain has hijacked. And you're on the edge of making a choice and doing something that's going to spark new positive energy. Sometimes I have fought the pain. Sometimes I have fought with God. Sometimes I've fought my knee in a way. I know some people will experience pain. I was listening to someone who was battling cancer, and I've heard this many times, and where they felt as though their body had betrayed them. And in that betrayal, there's a fight. What is it that you've been fighting? And what are your options? What is the new emotion? What if you had a new thought that also gave you an emotion? Our emotional reactions will create new thoughts, but we can also, with our thoughts, choose and pursue an emotion. What if you chose gratitude? What is it? And just sit with this. What is it that you're thankful for? What if we're thankful for the breath that we can breathe in? What if we're thankful for just the moment? What if we're thankful for the resilience that we have? What if you're resilient? What if your resilience is the very thing you'll find worthwhile to say, I'm thankful for my resilience? You are resilient. You very well may be exhausted, but that doesn't mean you're not resilient. If I may, just by being here in this moment, you are exercising your resilience. You're seeking ways to feed it. What other thoughts and feelings and actions will feed your resilience? Some people will fight just for the sake of fighting because it provides a sense that we have control. And the way our minds work, the way our brains actually work, especially if we've been dealing with in a chronic way over a long period of time, whether it's months or many years, something that's painful, something that's profoundly challenging, that's a new pattern, that fight. And what we fight, we might fight not having answers to what can be very painful questions. Questions involving your own identity, questions involving your faith, your God, questions involving scripture, promises, hopes, and expectations. Consider this. At the root of all frustrations are unmet expectations. What is it that you might be holding on to as an expectation? Whatever it is, it makes sense. We all have expectations. But what if we chose to set that aside, even for a moment? That would be an act of resilience. And let go of the frustration tied to that expectation that hasn't been met. Let it sit off to the side. What if we let it sit there and just be in this moment of resilience, this moment of quietness? It quiets the mind, quiets the spirit, quiets your emotions. These are the kinds of steps that help to lower the level of cortisol, stress hormone. You might even feel less pain. You've made a choice in doing that, setting that aside, setting anything aside for this moment. That's a powerful, beautiful step of resilience. Let it linger. Just let this moment stay and be. And take in a deep breath and say, I am resilience. It's in you. And it's worth acknowledging. It's worth saying, acknowledging, yeah, this is hard. This is really hard, but I've gotten this far. I'm doing this. imperfectly, because there's no perfection in resilience. There's no perfection in pain management. There's no perfection anywhere except in the perfect love of God. And what if we even acknowledge that by taking this moment, we are giving ourselves, from our own resilience, from our own mind, heart, and soul, grace to ourselves, permission to just be. Everything is set aside so we can just be resilient again and again and again. What is it that you're experiencing in this moment? Have you been able to set the fight aside? This is flow. I'm not fighting time, not fighting anything, just being. If the level of pain must be matched by the level of intentionality, what if we looked at it this way? The level of pain must be matched by an equally increased level of grace for yourself and for myself. Creating times like this, where we're at peace. And all that matters is this moment. In effect, we've just gone through the 3 steps of resilience to get to this. We tuned in, planned, and we're being our best. Take in another deep breath with me, if you would. As Anne shared with me, it doesn't begin with answers. It begins with choosing to do something. And we just made a choice, and we are doing something. We're letting time sit still. We're letting ourselves sit still in time. For me, this is what I needed to do in this moment with you after a very challenging week. After 10 or 15 minutes ago, I had a blast of pain. I said, this next moment is mine, and here we are. Celebrating a moment, some time of resilience. And I'm going to hold on to this even more, if I may, when we take a look at using the 3 steps of resilience through what are called the 8 paths of intentionality. One path is it's called triumph, is to celebrate a moment like this. That means, that chime means the time is at hour, but this is the time. Let that ring in a way, let it ring true that we're celebrating this moment, celebrating your resilience and mine. And by doing so, we're marking this. And we're just putting another example in our own daily experience of how this moment is part of a new pattern being made, a new pattern being shaped, to be able to do this on demand. It's in a way, it's your resilience in action. It's an example of how we can experience resilience on demand. In a way, that's what the 3 steps of resilience is all about. And this is what I mean by a compelling now. We've used the 3 steps of resilience to create this moment of stillness now. There are no questions. There's no fighting. This is flow. Would you like to have more flow? What if you practiced this, took this with you, and let this question sit with you? It doesn't need to be answered right now, not even later today, or maybe not even next week. What are the thoughts you might choose? What are the emotions you might choose to pursue? What are the actions you'll pursue? That's one way to understand what it means to be your best. And it's a way to experience how your best is greater than the pain. There are other questions I'd like to ask you. Was there some part of this past set of minutes when you were fighting the stillness or fighting in the stillness, finding a hard time to set everything aside and focus on this? What was it? What is it that you're fighting? What are those thoughts? Do you still have, which is completely understandable because there's no perfection here, there's no judgment here, there's curiosity. There are questions because it's through asking questions and waiting to see when the answers actually might emerge that we find discoveries along the way. I'm sure you've heard the story about Thomas Edison. A young reporter came to him and said, "Mr. Edison, you've been trying to create something called a light bulb for a long time now. You've already tried it over 1,000 times. Every one of them has failed. Every test has failed. Why do you keep trying?" And Edison's reply was, "I haven't failed. I've successfully found 1,000 different ways that it didn't work." And Edison went on more than 1,000 more tests before actually discovering the way a light bulb can work. So too it might be with your resilience, finding ways to and discovering ways to strengthen your resilience, no matter how hard it gets. That pursuit, every test that you find didn't work is part of the path of what it means to plan to be your best. And along the way, you'll discover, as Edison found out, after finding numerous ways it didn't work, here's how it does work. And that'll be something worth celebrating, worth rejoicing, and discovering again and again how your best is greater than the pain indeed, to the point where you're even able to learn so much about your own resilience, what it takes to strengthen it, that you'll be uniquely qualified to encourage others. Share your story. Let others know in this world where there's an awful lot of hurt, an awful lot of pain, physical pain, spiritual pain, emotional pain, mental stress, tremendous stress. As I often say that, and it's true, that more than half of the adults in the US say that they are carrying so much stress, they feel a profound sense of paralysis. They feel stuck. And it's through the 3 steps of resilience that we find the tools, the possibilities, the discoveries of how to get unstuck again and again. That's resilience. That's resilience in action. Some people fight the expectations, the promises, the hopes, and indeed the needs for healing. The promises I'm referring to are those in the Bible. And people ask, why? Why God? The Lord knows. I've asked that many times in over 50 years of living with extraordinary pain. I will say that there have been times when I've been tempted to say, I'm going through hell. That's actually perhaps the second time in over 6 years of daily pain that I've actually voiced that, only to make this point. It's not, because God is in the mix. Yes, God allows suffering. God didn't cause my knee injury. God didn't cause the problems to emerge after the seventh surgery on my left knee. But perhaps looking at it this way, that if God allows it, God allows the suffering, then that's creating a model for me. If I am made in God's image and God's looking at my character, then my response, my innate response is to say, then I too shall allow it. I too will suffer it, which means both I'll experience the pain of it, but the other meaning of suffer is to allow. I will allow it. That, my friends, is flow. I could fight God, as I have many times, especially during those first three surgeries between when I was 18, 19, and 20. Did an awful lot of fighting. But I wasted an awful lot of energy. Energy that is better spent understanding two things. I'll follow the way God models suffering and hardship, being resilient by allowing it, going with the flow, and being able to save the energy for doing something that I've found to be absolutely fundamentally essential as part of this daily journey. And that is to create. And if anything is going to be created, it's got to be positive. That means there needs to be grace in it. There needs to be love in it. There needs to be hope. I'm going to put that energy into creating. And I've found the more people I talk to who have lived through adversity or they're living through it now, that in their own unique way, they're finding ways to create. They're being part of life. They are living. And if we're living as fully as possible, then some aspect of creating is in the mix of their resilience. And it's part of my journey of resilience. Part of this, call it a podcast, call it Plan to Be Your Best Life, call it a positive and encouraging conversation. Well, what we are truly creating is really two things: hope and community. Two essential ingredients into living with daily pain, I've found. The more I put into this, the more it flows right back to me and feeds me. That's why I'll actually say, because I thrive on doing this, but I also thrive on hearing your story, hearing what it's encouraged you, whether it's what someone else said, maybe it's something that you've picked up from our time together. How has it helped you? What have you discovered about yourself? What might you find, and let's use the 3 steps of resilience to do this. What do you need? What possible thing could you do with, oh, pain happens in the moment, but so does resilience. And in this moment, when I return to you, I'm using my creativity. I'm putting energy into creating something for us, for you and me. What might you do? What can you put energy into that would be some form of living, being creative, something that includes, the ingredients include hope, include expression, include something positive, includes love, it includes grace, it includes encouragement for yourself and for others. Is it journaling, even privately? Is it picking up the phone and calling someone else who's in pain? Is it a song that you might write? It might be a poem. Or is it sitting down at a piano and just playing whatever notes come to your hands? One of the things that I did after my injury, I had an awful lot of time to look for new things to do. I taught myself the piano. The first song I taught myself was Yesterday. Wow, hadn't thought about that for a long time. Yesterday by the Beatles. Had a little trouble putting the left hand and the right hand parts together, but I knew how to read music. And I went on to learn to teach myself parts of Stairway to Heaven, MacArthur's Park, and other songs. And I found sitting down to even sometimes just playing chords with no particular pattern or intention other than just to make music, that time of creating was so soothing, so healing. What might you do that is a part of creation? You're alive, you're a created being. I assure you, the more you do that, whatever it might be, and maybe it's worth trying a variety of different things, you're going to discover, again, through your being creative, through what's good in you, what's true in you, that you will reap numerous benefits from it. And especially when you share it with someone else, you'll be reaping benefits and gaining strength, gaining goodness for your resilience and for them. Let's use the three steps of resilience one more time. Tune in. What do you need? What are you fighting? And now, plan. What might you choose? What new thought? What new emotion? What action or set of actions might you take that trade that fighting for flow? And what if you thought of possibilities that are just maybes? Maybes to get around to trying at some point. And then be your best. Choose the thought. Say, I'm going to feel this emotion. Focus on it. What we focus on, we experience. The more you focus on it, the more you'll experience it. Or what's the action that you'll follow through on? How might you encourage somebody else? And therefore, let that encouragement lift you up. And as you see it encourage somebody else, let that flow back to you and lift you up again. This is what I mean by a journey of resilience. There's this wonderful quote, I believe it's by Picasso. The foundational key to all success is action. Action is the foundational key to all success. If we trade the fight, which I understand, and sometimes I imperfectly need to stop myself from fighting, stop that tempest of thought, emotion, frustration, and fighting. Let that pain and those layers of pain, let them evaporate. Because what I'm going to choose is the best of me. I'm going to choose life. I'm going to choose flow. And I suppose, for the sake of using the word, if I'm going to fight for anything, I'm going to fight for flow. And by saying that, I'm really inviting you to join me in choosing to fight for flow. Fight for a new moment. Take in a new breath of life. Think of what might be your next best step forward. Allow me to perhaps share two thoughts. When we think about the fight, fighting the pain, fighting doubts, fighting the frustrations, fighting the expectations that haven't been realized. What's the why behind your fight? Let's tune in. You're in pain, and I'm so sorry. And I'm a holder of hope for you. One of the reasons I'm a holder of hope for you is because I know that when we take these steps and think about, why am I fighting? There are discoveries which can set you free, even if it's for a moment and perhaps again another future moment, when you're able to set that fight aside and choose flow. That's you being your best, and your best is greater than the pain. So one more time, let me ask you, why are you fighting? And what would it look like if you set that aside and choose just to breathe in, let that breath carry you into the next moment, and each next new breath carry you into a new moment. There's no urgency, just the moment, just now. Pain happens in the now, but so does resilience. Understanding that why is one of your keys to understanding what you truly need and what you truly can do. Seek to understand more, and you'll find the keys to be able to do more, including making those compelling moments, a compelling now, such as this, where you are able to say, I will be still. I'll set everything aside, the doubts, the fighting, and just let this time be what it is. This is the flow. This is, as imperfectly as it may be, is your resilience in action. What flow is not, what giving up the fight is not, it's not giving up. It's an alternative. If we can tell this fight is exhausting me, I'm not getting the answers, this isn't surrender to say, I'm going with the flow. This is your best. This is your resilience carrying you forward. Do you ever find yourself saying, I'm tired of fighting? Of course, I get it. Fighting and trading the fight for flow is not giving up on hope. It's actually putting life into hope. There's a certain confidence that comes with hope. And sometimes that confidence is made real, and hope is made real in a quiet moment like this, when we're just going with the flow. There's something we can stand on, stand in that confidence by saying, I've chosen this time to go with the flow. Be at peace with just this moment. Have gratitude just for this moment. This is hope made real. This is resilience made real. This is you being resilient. I'd love to hear from you. I've found that resilience is strengthened. It grows through conversation. I'm a holder of hope for you, and I'm here for you. Contact me. Let's have a conversation. And I'll promise you this: two things. One, I'll answer every question that you've got. And I might make some suggestions of things that you can use immediately, start to apply in whatever it is that you're navigating, whatever the pain may be. But I also assure you that when we talk, we're going to be talking about your resilience. We're going to be talking about confidence in resilience, hope in your resilience, and that you'll experience that hope, that confidence in your resilience. I'm here for you. You'll find at rickcram.com, my website, numerous links to being able to simply send me your information and we'll schedule a time. You'll actually be able to use my website, my calendar tool, scheduling tool, to pick a time that works for you. And I'll look forward to both encouraging you, being a holder of hope for you as we're talking, and to seeing where your resilience takes you, and to seeing where you being your best takes you. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to next Friday and to the guests that I'll be having in the weeks and months ahead with each Plan to Be Your Best Live. If there's anyone that you know that might be a good guest for me to talk to, someone who is through their adversity, and maybe it's you, found what it means to strengthen your own unique resilience, found ways that you've encouraged others, and found in what ways are you being creative? Are you living with your own creativity, ways of expressing everything from the pain to expressing the resilience, to expressing what it means for you to be your best? What does that look like to you? I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, thank you. I'm a holder of hope for you, and I remain that every day. Take care.